Today, the NL MVP and the Manager of the Year awards have been announced, among others, but those are the two we're going to focus on today because we got some Metsies in the mix. Lindor, Mendoza, we're breaking that down. Plus, the Mets make a sneaky signing in the pitching staff. We're breaking all of that down on this edition of Mets Digest. What's going on, everybody? Flobo Boyce here, rocking with you. Lifelong Mets fan and one half of the team here at Mets Digest. Want to make sure that you are liking the videos, subscribing. All the comments you write down, I read them. But if you're not part of that subscribing crew, if you're that 78.6%, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button to make sure you're first in the know when new content drops. And I mean that. I do read those comments, positive, negative, everywhere in between, because we want to build the best community ever. Okay, enough of that. Let's talk about this. The end of year awards are out, and nominations are pretty much running the gamut from oh yeah to huh? But because this is the Mets Digest channel, we're going to talk about the ones that affects us, the Mets. Way more important, the NL MVP race is official. Francisco Lindor was announced as a finalist, and Carlos Mendoza, the rookie manager, of course, this year was nominated for Manager of the Year. But let's talk about that NL MVP situation first, because you and I both know it was one of hot debate all summer. Francisco Lindor was on an absolute tear and really showed out not only as an on-field player, but as a leader as well. Of course, with all due respect to Ketel Marte with the Arizona Diamondbacks, it was seemingly a two-man race between Lindor and Shohei Mother Truckin' Ohtani, who didn't even pitch a single game this season, but found a way to put himself in the record books with that 50-50 season. And so the debate rages on. For those who aren't familiar, the votes for the end awards are usually submitted before the postseason. So the postseason really has no bearing on that, even though I think becoming a champion would probably help out Otani's case just a little bit more. But the debate still rages on. Can a DH or will a DH win the most valuable player without doing anything or not playing a defensive role? I think that's the best debate. But as the numbers are right now, they pretty much are in favor of Ohtani. I have them right here. This one comes from MLB.com. As you can tell, the numbers, if you look strictly at the numbers, Ohtani looks like he's favored. But again, there's something to be said about Lindor's contributions on the field, off the field, and defensively as well, that these numbers don't necessarily have the complete picture. We all know of the games of him trying to get Brazoban back in the game, or remember the Happy Jeff era, or even switching up and making a whole vibe with My Girl, or even heating up by being the leadoff hitter when Mendoza made some structural changes during the rough start to the season. Those things can't be necessarily quantified, and I do think Francisco should be our ML MVP, if not the team captain. Again, no disrespect to Ketel Marte. Does seem like he's probably in the mix objectively, but you can't really discount the battle that Lindor is going to personally have with Shohei Ohtani. And, well, as it is right now, if you will let me know in the comments below, does it matter? Should it matter whether or not someone who doesn't play defense, the DH of a team, should be considered for the MVP award? I know Ohtani aside, it's not just merely an anti-Ohtani thing, just in general, as we think about how it looks now with the universal DH, can DHs really be the most valuable person on the team? Also, moving on, Carlos Mendoza, the rookie manager, someone that came into a dumpster fire of the 2023 season, really pushed us closer than I would say in years, with all due respect to the 22 season. 6 wins away from becoming world champions. Didn't get it done, unfortunately, but the ride itself was absolutely amazing. And so, Carlos Mendoza, alongside Pat Murphy and Mike Schlitt, are the nominees for Manager of the Year. And what a lineup that is. The San Diego Padres really established themselves as, yeah, you're here to stay. Yeah, they've had high payroll teams before, but the chemistry was really palpable in this season. And of course, Pat Murphy had his own challenges with Milwaukee. They had lost Craig Counsell over to the Chicago Cubs. But I remember the anti Carlos Mendoza sentiment, or maybe the who is that sentiment when he was originally signed. That first month was pretty challenging, to say the least, or say first 6 weeks were challenging, to very much say the least, before the hashtag I miss Buck movement rolled on. The team turned itself around, and getting as far as you did with a manager that was fully trusted by the front office says a lot. And the fact that Mendoza's in the mix is pretty awesome for him as well. So all the credit for that for Carlos Mendoza. In fact, the challenge though becomes whether or not he'll garner enough votes against Pat Murphy, who has the owner of the better record head to head. In fact, MLB.com goes into more detail here. As for Mendoza, it says the manager faces a similar problem as Lindor. He's an excellent candidate going against another really strong one. Most pundits consider Milwaukee's Pat Murphy the favorite after he took over a Brewers team that lost Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff and led them to the NL Central crown. Right, the Brewers won the division. The Mets were third in theirs. Yet Mendoza garnered similarly high marks in his rookie managerial season, rallying a Mets team that had lost its first 5 games, and it was 11 games under 500 in late May to an 89-73 record and an NL wild card spot. And the numbers are true, and you can't really dispute them. But to tell you the truth, that torrid pace the Mets had in over 2 months was amazing. You don't really have a team play that hot for that long, say for the 2022 Braves, right? And that should really count as well. And the Brewers are pretty much turnkey. But maybe I'm just a little biased. Pat Murphy, with all due respect with him, being able to lead a Brewers team. And let's talk about the payroll situation, even though most of the Mets payroll this year was dead money. The Brewers had a much smaller payroll and did a whole lot with them. But that said, luck is out there for Carlos Mendoza. I think he truly deserves it. I have never seen a manager balance the analytics and tech forward nature of what the modern managers do alongside the old school thing of feeling the vibe and trusting your gut, and also being able to have a little bit of edge. I would argue as good as Buck Showalter was when we were getting beamed every week with those hit by pitches. He used to stare down people, but never really came out of the dugout to really get people a really stiff talking to the way Mendoza did. So I always give him props for that. You know what I mean? Having the wherewithal to fire up your team and go to bat for your guys, no pun intended, when need be. And lastly tonight, the front office, or should I say the pitching staff, has an addition. This one is from Hefner's staff, because remember David Stearns said during the GM meetings that the majority of the coaches were all coming back, but they're having some latitude to add some changes. Desi Druschel from the New York Yankees organization is coming over to Queens and is going to work under Jeremy Hefner on that pitching staff, which is actually pretty solid because the Yankees pitching was pretty solid, and now you don't really have to deal with that short porch as much. Maybe it could be more of a pitcher-friendly environment. This one comes from SNY TV and Alex Smith, who goes into more detail, and I want to apologize in advance because that face is massive, but it says Yankees manager Aaron Boone told reporters on Monday morning that he was expecting at least one and possibly two changes to his coaching staff, and we all know one of them. Druschel will work with returning pitching coach Jeremy Hefner, who has been with the Mets since December 2019, and reunite with former Yankees bench coach Carlos Mendoza. Now, we said this before, the Yankees organization has this kind of vibe where we kind of like pick like Luis Torrens this past season, and even Carlos Mendoza himself, but with the park really being more favorable, Citi Field being more of a pitcher's park than Yankee Stadium. I mean, it's not really necessarily that much of a debate. The short porch doesn't really happen in Queens. That, coupled with the expertise with an organization that was more forward in their pitching development and technology until very, very recently in the New York Yankees organization. So a great pickup for the squad to even strengthen one of the aspects of of the team we need to improve on. Yes, we need some arms. Yes, we need some bats. And yes, we need people to resign. Or yes, we need free agents. But having a good coaching staff makes things that much easier for everyone. Hey, you've reached the end of the video. I want to know what you think in the comments below. Francisco Lindor's chances of the NL MVP race, as well as Carlos Mendoza's, and this pickup over here in the staff about Desi Druschel from the New York Yankees. This is Mets Digest. Again, your one-stop shop for Mets content all around the planet. I'm Flobo Boyce, and as always, it's LGM to the bitter end.